This video is about Thor confronts ice giant until lightning misses. If this myth excites you, please like the video, share it with friends, and write in the comments how it pulled you into the adventure. In the heart of Midgard, where the sun glimmered weakly through the pallid clouds, the earth trembled beneath the weight of destiny. The village of Elderheim, nestled between the jagged peaks of the Frostforged Mountains, had long been trapped in an eternal winter, a cruel gift from the ice giants, ancient foes of the Aesir. The skies wept with snowflakes that danced like lost souls, and the air crackled with untold energies, foreboding yet electric. Thor, the god of thunder, a figure chiseled by the hands of battle and destiny, stood at the edge of the village, his mighty hammer, Mjolnir, cradled in one hand. His auburn hair whipped around his face, a fiery banner in the storm. He had heard the cries of the villagers, their voices cracking like the brittle ice surrounding them. Their pleas had echoed through the sacred halls of Valhalla, stirring him from the warmth of feast and glory that never seemed to fade. By Odin's breath, I will end this cursed winter. Thor thundered, his voice a booming resonance that stirred the very earth. He stepped forward, the ground vibrating beneath his feet as he made his way toward the mountain pass where the ice giants dwelled in their frozen fortress. As he approached, the landscape transformed into a realm of unyielding ice. The silver-white glaciers loomed like titans, glistening under the dim light of the sun. The air turned heavy with the scent of frost and ancient malice, and Thor's heart steeled against the chill that sought to seep into his bones. Frostlings, he bellowed, his voice now a challenge, a summons for his enemies. Show yourselves, lest I find you in the shadows. From the depths of the frozen caves, the giants emerged, towering figures wreathed in blue and white, their skin like polished ice, faces fierce and cruel. Their eyes flickered with the ancient fury of their kin. Foolish god, one of them growled, his voice like the grinding of glaciers. You think your thunder can conquer the cold? We are the harbingers of winter, and now your time has come. With a swift motion, Thor raised Mjolnir, the hammer crackling with power, and summoned forth a storm. Lightning flickered across the sky, illuminating his figure in a brilliant flash. Nature itself responded to his will, as dark clouds rolled above, pregnant with electricity. Then let us unleash the fury of the heavens. Thor roared, his heart ignited with righteous fury. The first bolt of lightning shot from the sky, arcing down toward the nearest giant, but as soon as it struck, a deafening crack echoed through the mountains. The giant staggered, but remained standing, his laughter echoing against the icy cliffs. Is this the best you can do, Thunderer? He mocked, the sound deep and mocking, a tremor of ice cascading from his throat. Ignoring the taunts, Thor's heart pounded with the rhythm of battle. He charged forward, Mjolnir glinting in the feeble light as he swung the hammer in a wide arc. The air crackled with energy, yet in that moment of fury, a sudden gust surged through the valley. A fierce blizzard erupted, blinding him in a flurry of ice and snow. No, he shouted, his voice swallowed by the storm, and in the chaos, the bolt of lightning he had conjured veered away from its path, missing the giant completely. In that crucial instant, the frost giant took advantage of Thor's disorientation, lunging forward with a colossal fist aimed at the god of thunder. The ground shook as Thor barely dodged, feeling the wind rush past him like a vengeful spirit. Is thunder always so weak? The giant jeered, his voice booming as he swung again. You are as soft as the snowflakes falling from the sky. With renewed determination, Thor dodged, weaving through the blizzard as he gathered his strength. He raised Mjolnir high once more, channeling the fury of the storm within him. The dark clouds thickened and roared, and for a fleeting moment time slowed. Let the heavens witness my wrath, Thor declared, sending another bolt of lightning blazing toward the ice giant. This time, the crackling energy surged through, striking the giant on his shoulder, sending shards of ice splintering from his form. The giant roared in rage and pain, the sound echoing like thunderclaps across the frozen landscape. The very ground trembled in response, but the giant stood firm, shaking off the remnants of the storm. You think to scare me, God? He spat, his voice dripping with contempt. You will have to do far better. Thor felt the tide of battle shift, his resolve hardening like the ice surrounding him. Then so be it, by the blood of my father, I will end this winter. With a fierce cry, he charged forward, Mjolnir crackling with energy, a beacon of hope amidst the despair. As he fought, a sudden realization struck him like a lightning bolt. The ice giants drew power from the very cold they commanded. He had to turn their strength against them. Glancing at the frozen landscape, he called forth the warmth from his heart, pulling forth flames of the sun, channeling it through Mjolnir. Let the warmth of Midgard thaw your frozen hearts, he shouted, and with that declaration, flames erupted from his hammer, clashing against the surrounding ice in brilliant bursts of light and heat. The ground radiated warmth, but the ice giants were not easily subdued. The first giant, now singed by the flames, retaliated with a furious swing of his arm, but Thor dodged, rolling beneath the giantess' legs. And Mjolnir struck the ground, sending a shockwave through the earth that shattered the ice around them. The blizzard began to calm, and a ray of sunlight broke through the clouds, illuminating the battlefield. But amid the chaos, a second giant joined the fray, catching Thor off guard. A powerful arm swung like a glacial avalanche, and Thor barely managed to parry the blow, the force of it knocking him backward. He stumbled, the world spinning for a moment, but he steadied himself, determination boiling within his veins. Frostlings together, the giant roared, and they charged at him with renewed vigor, their massive forms moving as one, a tide of ice and fury. Thor took a deep breath, channeling every ounce of power he could master. "I am Thor, son of Odin, and I will not yield," he shouted, and with the fury of 1,000 storms, he raised Mjolnir high. The hammer pulsed with energy, and in that moment, he understood the storm could be both his weapon and his shield. With a fierce battle cry, he summoned the lightning again, but this time, he did not aim at the giants. Instead, he struck the ground beneath them, creating a massive fissure. The ground quaked, and ice shards flew into the air, catching the light of the sun as they fell. The giants stumbled, their unity broken by Thor's cunning. He seized the moment, charging forth, Mjolnir flashing like a comet as he swung it with all his might. The hammer found purchase against the nearest giant's leg, sending him crashing to the ground in an explosion of snow and ice. "You will not crush me," Thor roared as he leaped atop the fallen giant, swinging Mjolnir with devastating force. But the battle was not over. The second giant, enraged by the sight of his fallen kin, roared like a winter storm, charging at Thor with the full weight of his anger. Seeing the giant's fury, Thor knew he had one final strike left if he could withstand the attack. With all his might, he held his ground, raising Mjolnir once more. The crackling energy surged through him, the storm answering his call. "Come, you wretched frost," he shouted defiantly, fully prepared for the onslaught. As the giant barreled towards him, the ground shook, and a fierce wind whipped violently around them. Would Thor's lightning strike true this time, or would fate turn its back on the noble god of thunder? In that moment, as destiny loomed heavy in the air, the world held its breath, hanging on the precipice of an epic battle. As the frost giant charged, a shadow loomed over Thor, darkening the world around him. In that heartbeat, time stretched, and he felt the weight of his lineage pressing on his shoulders. He was Thor, son of Odin, heir to the legacy of the Aesir, yet this moment did not feel like glory, it felt like a precipice, a leap into the unknown. The giant's icy breath coiled around him, whispering doubts and fears, but Thor clenched Mjolnir tighter. With a fierce resolve, he summoned the storm's power within him. The skies darkened even further, swelling with ominous clouds as nature seemed to respond to his call. A symphony of thunder rolled through the heavens, a prelude to the chaos that was about to unfold. "Let the earth tremble beneath our wrath," he shouted, a roar that echoed through the mountains. The giant lunged forward, his gargantuan fist crashing down like a meteor. Thor stood unyielding, feeling the ground shudder beneath him. With a shout that split the storm, he swung Mjolnir, channeling the raw energy of the heavens. Lightning arced from his hammer, illuminating the battlefield in a blinding flash. It struck the ground with a deafening crack, sending a shockwave that reverberated through the very core of the frost-forged mountains. The giant stumbled, his ferocity interrupted, his icy form shimmering under the electric brilliance. "Enough of this foolishness," Thor roared, feeling the heat of righteous fury course through him. He seized the moment, his heart pounding like thunder in his chest, and charged into the chaos, his feet pounding against the frozen earth as he closed the gap between them. But the giant, not to be underestimated, regained his footing and retaliated. Wielding his massive fist-like hammers of winter, he swung wide, slashing the air with icy winds that threatened to freeze Thor in his tracks. The air grew bitter, each breath a struggle against the frost that sought to invade his lungs. "Feel the wrath of the ancients," the giant bellowed, his voice a deep rumble that resonated like the churning sea. "You are but a spark in the storm, Thunderer, your power is weak, and your time is at an end." Thor's pulse quickened as he ducked beneath yet another brutal swing, rolling to the side to avoid being crushed underfoot. The giant's massive foot stomped down, sending shards of ice flying, a deadly rain of frozen shards. Through the chaos, Thor could see the fury in the giant's eyes, a hatred that burned for centuries, a vendetta etched in ice. With a fierce battle cry, Thor managed to regain his footing, swinging Mjolnir across the giant's torso. The impact sent ripples through the giant's form, but he remained standing, anger radiating from him like heat from a forge. "This is merely a scratch," the giant howled, his voice thunderous and mocking. "You think you can thaw what has been frozen for millennia? I do not need to thaw it," Thor retorted, his voice fierce like the crack of thunder. "I merely need to extinguish you." In that moment, Thor made the decision to turn the tide. He climbed to the giant's shoulder, where he could strike true. The giant swatted at him with one hand, but Thor deftly avoided the blow, the raw energy of Mjolnir coursing through him. "Now, witness the fury of the storm," he shouted, raising Mjolnir high above his head. He summoned every ounce of power he had, feeling the thunder roll beneath him, resonating with the very essence of his being. Lightning crackled, illuminating the frost giant like a beacon. In that moment, he was both god and mortal, a warrior of honor facing a creature of ancient malice. "I will break your icy grip on Midgard," he declared, unleashing the full force of the storm. A colossal bolt of lightning erupted from Mjolnir, striking the giant squarely in the chest. This time, the energy surged through him like fire, melting the ice that encased his heart. The giant let out a deafening roar, a sound that echoed through the valleys and sent snow cascading down the mountainsides. Thor seized his advantage, the heat of victory igniting within him. He swung Mjolnir again and again, each blow resonating with the fury of a tempest, the shockwaves cascading outward, ripping apart the frozen landscape. "Your reign of winter ends here," he bellowed, his voice a force of nature. But even as he fought, the battle raged on. The second frost giant, still strong and furious, lumbered forward, eyes burning with rage. It charged at Thor, fist raised high, determined to avenge its fallen kin. "Oh, Thor, you think you can win?" it bellowed, its breath curling in icy puffs. "The cold never yields, and we are its champions. Then let us see how well you endure the heat of my wrath." Thor shouted back, his heart racing as he faced the second giant. With a fierce battle cry, Thor summoned the elements once more. This time, he drew power from the depths of the earth. The ground trembled, and magma surged through the fissures, turning the icy battleground into a volcanic hellscape. "Mjolnir to me," he yelled, calling forth the hammer, readying himself for the oncoming assault. As the second giant bore down on him, Thor unleashed a torrent of flames, a whirlwind of molten fury that surged forward like the breath of a dragon. The flames clashed against the giant, melting the ice that encased its body. The heat was unbearable, and the giant howled in agony as Thor pressed forward, striking blow after blow, turning the tide of the battle. "You are nothing to me," Thor roared, determination etched in every line of his face. The giant staggered back, trying to shield itself from the flames, but it was no use. Thor's resolve had kindled a firestorm, and he pressed the attack with relentless fury. With each swing of Mjolnir, he felt the weight of the past, of the struggles of his kin, and the sacrifices made for Midgard. His heart ached not just with anger, but with a will to protect those he loved. He lunged forward, and with one final swing, he struck the giant down, the force of his blow reverberating through the mountains. As the second giant fell, Thor turned back to the first, which was now weakened from the battle. The icy menace had begun to falter, its once proud form now a mere shadow of its former self, beaten by the relentless spirit of the Aesir. "Yield!" Thor commanded, his voice a stormy echo through the valley. Thor faced the wrath of the Thunderer. The giant growled, its eyes burning with a fierce, dying light. "You think you have won, Thunderer, but our kind will always rise again. Winter is eternal, and you are but a fleeting spark." As the giant's breath clouded the air, Thor realized the truth in its words. The battle had been won, but the cycle of war and winter would never end. Yet today, he would not let the darkness of despair take hold of him. "You may rise again, but I will always be here to strike you down," Thor declared. "The warmth of Midgard will always fight against the cold." In that moment, he raised Mjolnir high, the energy swelling around him like a tempest. With a final, resounding cry, he summoned the storm in its entirety, and a blinding flash of lightning struck down upon the giant, illuminating the entire battlefield in a dazzling glow. When the light faded, the giant lay defeated, a smoldering testament to the power of the Aesir. Thor stood tall, his chest heaving with exertion, but his spirit unbroken. As the storm began to clear, rays of sunlight pierced through the clouds, warming the frozen ground. The villagers of Eldheim, witnessing the end of the battle, erupted into cheers, their voices carrying forth on the wind. "Thor, Thor, you have saved us," they cried, hoping that this time the winter would finally relent. Thor, still clutching Mjolnir, looked out upon the villagers, their faces radiant with hope. He had faced the frost giants, and though the battle was hard fought, he had emerged victorious against the eternal winter. Yet deep within his heart, he understood that true victory lay not just in conquest but in a perseverance to protect those he loved. As he descended from the mountain, the echoes of battle still reverberating in his ears, he felt the weight of destiny shift upon his shoulders. "Let the frost tremble at my name," he whispered, knowing that the cycle of struggle was far from over. A new chapter awaited, and as long as he drew breath, Thor would rise to meet it, a steadfast guardian against the encroaching darkness. The skies above began to clear, and the warmth of the sun painted the land in vibrant hues, a promise of spring after a long, cruel winter. The echoes of battle faded into memory as Thor's laughter mingled with the voices of the grateful villagers, the resilience of Midgard shining brighter than ever. And so, a legend of Thor, the god of thunder, continued to weave through the tapestry of time, a tale of honor, sacrifice, and the eternal struggle against the forces that sought to plunge Midgard into despair. But as the villagers celebrated, the whisper of fate lingered in the air, a reminder that the past never truly dies. As Thor descended from the frost-forged mountains, the sun's rays warmed his skin, yet a shadow loomed over his heart. He had triumphed, but the bittersweet taste of victory lingered. An echo of the giant's words haunted him: "Winter is eternal." How many more battles would he face? How many more sacrifices would be demanded of him? Suddenly, a familiar figure emerged from a throng of cheering villagers, a shimmering silhouette against the backdrop of a newly dawning day. It was Sif, his fierce companion and warrior of unmatched prowess. Her hair flowed like golden wheat, and her eyes shimmered with a fierce light, reflecting both pride and concern. "Thor," she cried, rushing to him, her voice ringing like a battle horn. "What have you done? The giants may yet strike again. You know this victory will not hold them for long." Thor's heart swelled at her presence, though he felt the weight of his weariness. "I know, Sif, I felt the chill of their vengeance even in my victory. We must prepare." As the sun climbed higher, casting its golden light upon Eldarheim, Thor gathered the villagers. They gathered in the village square, an anxious throng of faces, each one marked by the cold of the recent winter. Each heart beat a drum of unyielding hope. "My friends," Thor began, his voice booming yet tender, "we have faced the frost giants and sent them reeling into the depths, yet the threat lingers, lurking in the shadows of the mountains. We must unite, gather our strength, and prepare for the storms to come." A murmur rippled through the crowd, a chorus of anxiety and hope. Among them stood Eric, a burly blacksmith, fists clenched like iron. "What do you propose, Thor? We have no mages or tricksters among us, only warriors wielding axes and bows." Thor met his gaze, the fire of resolve igniting within him. "Then we will become more than warriors. We will forge alliances, gather our kin, and prepare our defenses. Together, we can weather any storm." Sif stepped forward, her voice steady. "I have heard whispers from the Valkyries, rumors of a new alliance, one that could tip the balance against the giants." "Speak, Sifa," Thor urged, his heart quickening at the prospect. "They say the elves of Alfheim are willing to join us, but only if we can prove our valor. They seek a sign of strength, a challenge worthy of their talents. If we can face the beasts that guard the entrance to their realm, they will ally with us." A determined fire burned in Thor's eyes. "Then we shall go. Gather your weapons, prepare your hearts. We ride for Alfheim." With their spirits renewed, the villagers prepared for the journey ahead. But as Thor and Sif rode forth, a shadow stirred in the frost-forged mountains, where the remnants of the frost giants gathered. Thor may have won the battle. One of the surviving giants, Fenrir, a cunning beast with ice-blue eyes, growled, "But he underestimates the fury of our kind. We will not rest until he pays for his insolence." As the giants plotted revenge, Thor and Sif rode toward Alfheim, their hearts steeled with determination. They traversed lush forests, vibrant with the colors of spring, until they reached the border where the realm of the elves began. An ethereal beauty surrounded them, dappled in golden light. "Be cautious, Thor," Sif warned, her voice softening as she took in the beauty. "The elves are fickle, and their trust is hard-earned." As they approached the enchanted gates, shimmering with light and magic, they were met by a majestic figure, Eldrin, the elven guardian, his presence radiating both grace and authority. "Thor, god of thunder," Eldrin began, his voice melodic yet firm, "you come seeking an alliance, yet you tread upon sacred ground. What proof do you bring of your valor?" Thor stepped forward, his presence commanding. "We have faced the giants of ice and won, but their threat remains. If you would have us as allies, then let us prove our worth by defeating the beasts that guard your realm. Together we will protect our homes." Eldrin's gaze narrowed, evaluating the sincerity in Thor's eyes. "Very well, Thunderer, a trial awaits. Face the serpent of the glade, a creature born of darkness and magic, and only then shall the elves join your cause." With a nod, Thor accepted the challenge. Eldrin gestured, and a path of light opened, leading them to the heart of the glade, where the monstrous serpent lay coiled among the shadows, a guardian of ancient secrets. "Prepare yourself, Sif," Thor said, gripping MJ Elner tightly. "This may be our greatest test yet." As they approached the clearing, the air grew thick with tension. Suddenly, the creature stood, a massive serpent with scales like molten silver, eyes glinting with unfathomable depths. It hissed, the ground trembling beneath its weight. "Foolish mortals," it spat, its voice a venomous whisper. "You dare challenge me? I am the keeper of secrets, and your lives are but a flicker in the grand tapestry of fate." With a deafening roar, the serpent lunged, its massive body twisting through the air like a storm unleashed. Thor raised MJ Elner, channeling the fury of thunder as he leaped to meet the beast. "Prepare to meet the storm," he bellowed, swinging the hammer with all his might. Lightning crackled in response, illuminating the battlefield in a brilliant flash. The serpent struck, its fangs glistening like daggers. Sif, moving like a whirlwind, danced alongside Thor, her sword gleaming as she struck at the beast's flanks, trying to draw its attention away from the god of thunder. "Focus, Sif," Thor shouted as he dodged another serpentine strike, the air crackling around him. "We must work together." With a fierce battle cry, Thor summoned the storm-s power once more. "Let the heavens bear witness," he declared, unleashing a torrent of lightning that struck true against the serpent's massive form. The creature writhed in pain, its screeches piercing the air. But it was not defeated. It lashed out, using its tail to create a whirlwind of chaos. Thor barely managed to leap aside, the wind threatening to throw him off balance. "Keep the pressure on," Thor urged, rallying against the beast. "We cannot let up." Sif nodded, determination burning in her eyes. She launched herself at the serpent's head, landing a blow that connected with a fierce clang, but the creature retaliated with a vicious snap of its jaws. "Stay back," Thor shouted. "I will summon the storm." With MJ Elner raised high, he focused his energy, drawing in the power of the storm raging above. The clouds swirled ominously, darkening the glade as thunder rumbled in response to his call. "Feel the might of the thunder," Thor roared, and with a mighty swing, he sent a bolt of lightning crashing into the serpent, electrifying its entire being. The creature convulsed, its scales sizzling, but it fought back, thrashing wildly as it sought to regain control. "Together," Sif called, scrambling to Thor's side. They moved in unison, attacking the beast with a flurry of strikes, lightning and steel dancing through the air. As the serpent coiled, Thor struck at its vulnerable underbelly, igniting a surge of energy that coursed through his body. "We will not falter," he declared, rallying every ounce of strength within him. Sif ducked beneath the serpent's tail, darting forward to thrust her sword deep into its side. The beast roared in agony, but Thor seized the moment, swinging MJ Elner with unyielding ferocity. "I will end this," he shouted, determination etching every line of his face. With one final, mighty blow, he struck the serpent's head, sending shockwaves through the glade. The creature let out a deafening roar, its body arching before collapsing to the ground, defeated. The air fell silent, and the shadows that had once loomed over the glade began to recede. Thor, chest heaving, lowered MJ Elner, the storm dissipating around him. "We did it, Sif," he exclaimed, a triumphant smile breaking through the exhaustion. The elven guardian, Aldrin, stepped forward, his eyes wide with respect. "You have proven your worth, Thor, and your valor shines as brightly as the sun. The elves will stand beside you against the frost giant." As the sun broke through the clouds, the glade filled with light, and the air shimmered with the promise of alliance. Thor and Sif embraced, their spirits soaring with the knowledge that they had forged a bond that would withstand the trials to come. Returning to Eldalheim, Thor felt the weight of the battles ahead. He had faced the beasts, the dark creatures lurking. The sun hung low as Thor and Sif returned to Eldalheim, riding side by side through the vibrant forest, now alive with the colors of spring. The air was sweet with the scent of blooming flowers, yet a storm brewed within Thor's heart, a tempest of anticipation and dread. Each beat of his heart echoed the rumbling of the frost giants, whose hatred seethed like molten lava beneath the icy facade of the frost-forged mountains. As they approached the village, the cheerful faces of the villagers welcomed them like a warm embrace. The people had gathered in the square, hope flickering in their eyes as they spotted the returning champions. Thor raised MJ Elner high above his head, its polished surface gleaming in the sunlight, a symbol of victory against the beast. "Friends, today we have forged an alliance with the elves of Alfheim," Thor boomed, his voice a resonant echo that filled the square. "Together, we will stand against the frost giants and protect our home." A cheer erupted from the crowd, their voices intertwining with the melody of nature, creating a symphony of hope. Sif dismounted beside him, a presence a fierce sunbeam cutting through the lingering shadows. "But we must prepare," she urged, her voice steady and filled with urgency. "We have won the trust of the elves, but the giants will not sit idle. They will strike with a fury we have yet to face." Nods of agreement rippled through the crowd. Warriors stood tall, their faces set with determination. Eric, the blacksmith, stepped forward, his hands calloused but strong. "Then we shall gather the warriors. We will forge weapons and armor, make ready our defenses. The giants will find us ready and resolute." As the villagers surged into action, Thor felt a swell of pride. They were more than mere mortals. They were the heart of Midgard, resilient and unyielding. Yet beneath his resolve, doubt crept in like a chill. Would their preparation be enough to withstand the giants' wrath? Night fell over Eldalheim, stars twinkling like showers of hope against the vast canvas of darkness. Thor sat atop a hill overlooking the village, and Elna resting beside him, its presence both comforting and daunting. Sif climbed the hill to join him, her silhouette framed by the moonlight. "You are troubled, Thor," she said softly, her voice like a soothing balm. "What weighs on your mind?" "I fear I cannot protect them," he confessed, his voice barely above a whisper. "The giants will come with vengeance in their hearts. I can feel it in the air, the way the winds howl with their fury." Sif laid a hand on his shoulder, her grip warm and steadfast. "You are a god of thunder, but you are also a protector. Trust in your strength, and trust in the bonds we have forged. Together, we are greater than the sum of our parts." Her words ignited a spark within him, fueling the fire of his resolve. "You are right, Sif. I will not falter. I will lead them to victory, and we will end this cycle of fear." As dawn broke, painting the sky with hues of gold and crimson, the village stirred with renewed energy. Warriors trained in the fields, blacksmiths hammered iron into weapons, and the air was filled with the clashing of metal and the sounds of determination. Thor moved among them, offering encouragement, sharing tales of bravery, his laughter mingling with theirs. Days turned into a week, and with each passing hour, the villagers grew more adept and confident. The Elven alliance brought with it not only skilled warriors, but also enchantments that wove through their weapons. Sif trained alongside the villagers, her spirit infectious, inspiring them to push harder, to dig deeper. But as the sun dipped below the horizon one fateful evening, a tremor shook the earth. The ground rumbled like a creature awakening from a deep slumber, and a freezing wind swept through Eldalheim. Thor and Sif exchanged alarmed glances, sensing the shift in the air. "The giants are here," Thor growled, clenching Elner. "Prepare for battle." The villagers scrambled for their weapons as Thor and Sif took their places at the forefront. The sky darkened ominously as the frost giants emerged from the mountains, their massive forms looming like nightmares made flesh. Fenrir, the cunning giant who had plotted revenge, stood at the helm, rage etched into every line of his frozen visage. "Foolish mortals." Fenrir roared, his voice a thunderous echo that sent shivers down their spines. "You think you can defy us? We will bring winter back to your hearts and ice your souls." Thor stepped forward, and Elner crackling with energy. "You will find us unyielding, Fenrir. We will not bow to your tyranny." With a bellow of fury, the giant lunged, a blizzard erupting in his wake. Thor charged to meet him, the earth trembling beneath their feet. The clash of thunder and frost resonated, a primal battle between the elements. "Let the storm consume you," Thor shouted as he swung Elner, sending a bolt of lightning spiraling towards Fenrir. The strike illuminated the battlefield, revealing the fearlessness of the villagers as they stood united, ready to fight for their home. But the giants were relentless. Fenrir deflected the lightning with a swing of his massive arm, sending shards of ice flying like deadly projectiles. Thor dodged, narrowly avoiding the icy shards, but one pierced his shoulder, pain flaring through him. He gritted his teeth, refusing to falter. "Stay strong." Sif called out, her sword flashing as she fought beside the villagers, rallying them against the onslaught. "We are not alone in this fight." Just then, the second giant, a colossal figure named Skull, charged through the ranks of warriors, his fists swinging like battering rams. Thor felt the ground quake as he faced Skull, fury boiling within him. "Your time is at an end, Thunderer." Skull thundered, his icy breath swirling around them like a frozen tempest. "Then let us dance in the storm." Thor roared back, summoning the power of the storm once more. With a mighty swing, he unleashed a torrential bolt of lightning that struck Skull squarely in the chest. The giant roared in anguish, staggering back, but Thor seized the opening, charging forward with all his might. He swung Elner once more, connecting with a bone-shattering blow that sent Skull crashing to the ground. But Fenrir was quick to retaliate. Enraged, he lunged for Thor, arms outstretched as he sought to crush the god beneath his mass. Time slowed, and Thor could see the glint of malice in the giantess' eyes. He had to act fast. By the power of the storm, Thor shouted, raising Mjolnir high. He channeled the energy of the heavens, feeling the storm answer his call. With a deafening crack, lightning surged down, striking Fenrir before he could reach him. The giant recoiled, his form shimmering with electricity, his howl of rage echoing throughout the valley. "You will pay for this, Thunderer," he bellowed, staggering back as the villagers rallied against him, their combined strength pushing him to the edge of defeat. Yet, as the battle raged, Fenrir's cunning plan began to unfold. With a swift motion, he called forth the icy winds, summoning a storm that blurred the battlefield. The air became thick with frost and confusion, and whispers of despair began to seep into the minds of the warriors. "The ice will swallow your hearts," Fenrir's voice echoed, chilling their spirits. "Give in to despair, and winter will claim you." Thor felt the icy tendrils wrap around him, threatening to snuff out his spirit. But then he remembered the warmth of the villagers, their tenacity igniting a fire within him. "No," he roared, shaking off the frost that sought to bind him. "We are not weak, we are the children of Midgard, and we will endure." He turned to Sif, her eyes fierce and unwavering. "Together, we can break this spell, focus on the warmth we share." With renewed determination, they raised their weapons high, channeling their combined strength. The villagers rallied behind them, their spirits igniting like fire in the dark, the warmth of their unity pushing back the frost. "Onward!" Sif shouted, her voice ringing clear. "Fight for your loved ones, for our future." With a surge of power, they pushed through the blizzard, striking at the giants with unyielding ferocity. Thus won Mjolnir with renewed vigor, each strike sending shockwaves through the air, each clash of steel ringing like a clarion call. Fenrir howled in frustration, his icy magic faltering against the onslaught. "You will not defeat me," he screamed, but Thor felt the tides of battle shift beneath him. With Sif by his side, they pressed forward, Mjolnir striking true once more. The giants began to falter, their immense forms breaking under the weight of their own hubris. The villagers fought valiantly, their hearts ablaze with courage, refusing to back.